All right. Hello, everyone. Sorry it has taken me so long to get to giving this update. But I kind of wanted to make a few larger points to just because everybody deserves to sort of hear some of this. So with that, we'll get started. Try to keep this short. All right. So the design and construction idea on this was that we're not trying to build a trail for the existing riding community. The idea was to build sort of the state of the art, well-rounded, modern trail system, and that the local riding community would adapt and grow. And rather than trying to build to the local riding community, which would really just be building to what people were used to riding. Kind of a important point to make on that is we took the green trails really seriously, because a lot of places don't have those sorts of trails in with that mileage and that quality. I really struggled with I kept on trying to come up with a creative and better name than green trails, because the green trails, they're beginner trails and people think they should be riding the blue trails. But I mean, the green trails are kind of just like fun, easy, in the sense of not a lot of technical difficulty. But those shouldn't be thought of like if you're a intermediate rider or advanced rider, you just don't ride the green trails because they're for beginners. They just offer sort of a different, faster, flowier, less technical experience. So when you're looking at the trail system as a rider, and those trails are really nice for running and walking, just because the trail surface is nice. So that's kind of a little bit on construction and philosophy. A little bit more is one of the things we were really adamant about, and became more so the further along we went, is to really build to the strengths of that property. Because in the long run, fighting terrain and fighting soil and other things is just a losing battle. So the blue trails are pretty rocky for the region because that was the strength of the property. For where we are, that property's got good elevation. The soil is really good in pockets, like Suaves, and now we sort of borrowed some of that clay, but it was nearby. But it's amazing. It's why it holds up so well. It's beautiful red clay. But a lot of places, like on Lickety Split, we don't have that sort of soil. But what we do have is rock. So I think if you've watched some of these before, we'll go back and add some rock to Lickety Split to sort of some of those little kickers and smaller jumps, because we just don't have the soil to hold together there for those sorts of features, and it's hard to get to maintain. And the primary purpose was to benefit the local community by the more people riding, more people coming to ride. So it was not just to build what we want. If we built the trail system that I wanted, it would look very different. Now, I love the trail system and think it's, very biased, but I think it's wonderful. But it was not just sort of what any one person wanted as a mountain biker. When we started out and as we got going, I was leading this. A lot of people helped. I want to be very clear that it was by no means just me, but I was leading the charge, definitely. Starting out, I had about zero input on the green trails. I was worried about and then as I learned more from working with the trail builders and seeing what happened, I started to have more and more input. And I talked with some people about that. There were definitely ideas bounced off various people, but I was worried about sort of a committee work product and a whole bunch of people going in different directions and having a very garbled objective, and just having something that felt pieced together. Like a lot of committee work product does. And we had certain commitments to supporters who donated all this money and helped us sort of politically and other support. And we had to adhere to that. And I also was very nervous about road building and modifying. And I also, I had a lot of, I used to joke, personal risks. I used to joke that if all this went bad, I was going to have to leave town in the middle of the night. The people that donated, their family friends, they're my friends, a whole bunch of them are clients. So it was hard for me to just turn everything loose. And then we also had these management model negotiations going on, which made it hard to share a bunch of information as well, just because I didn't want to say anything that I wasn't confident was going to be helpful. And I don't have any experience negotiating with public land managers, so I tried to have some humility there. So that's kind of my personal thinking in going into this. As far as the pro of that approach, I think it went well. I'm happy to let the results sort of speak for themselves. The con is, because I think to a lot of people, the trail system just fell out of the sky. And so there's this sense of a little bit of entitlement, a little bit less ownership and engagement from some of the user groups. And that's just the cost of having a very centralized, maybe organized approach to the design and build out. Like I said earlier, that's kind of exacerbating by it being hard to share information while we were negotiating this management model. But this is going to be very high priority moving forward. And the way I think about this is that we had out-of-town designers, builders with tons of experience have sort of poured the foundation, framed the house, however you want the analogy to work. But then sort of the remodeling and maintenance can be much more decentralized as more and more people sort of get trained up and we all get on the same page. And there'll be a lot of turning loose of control and trying to create more engagement and ownership. So that's a bunch of philosophical stuff. On SkyShark and WILDCat. Now look, right now, not a whole bunch of people can ride SkyShark. That's not unusual. I was at the Riveter a few weeks ago. I talked to the guys late in the day while my wife and kids were in the climbing gym. And I went and looked at how they were doing maintenance and their tarping and everything else. And there'd been 2 people all day that had ridden their black jump line, and it was the 2 people that worked for them. And this was like a Saturday at 4. And you go to Canoga and like you see the same thing. It's like a lot that true black jump line just don't get ridden a lot, but it's part of a well-rounded trail system. And our black jump lines, probably dark blue, in bike park world. But the number of riders will grow. But regardless, it's important to the mission. So it needs to be important to everyone because it is, we need to have that well-rounded trail system, and the black jump line and WILDCat are part of it, just like the green trails are part of it. You have to excuse my typo here. The build of SkyShark and WILDCat was very strategic. They're close to the parking lot, so they're easy to maintain. They're also sort of have the more of a manufactured, less natural feel. It was also important to keep that close to the parking lot. And we waited until close to the end of the build because we wanted to have as much community as possible to help maintain it because they're definitely more maintenance intensive. The plan, you see the jute matting out there. Some of the grass is finally starting to poke up through the jute matting, and hopefully it'll continue to grow and spread. We've identified some spots for some silt fencing. Later on, we may turn that into some riprap or something more attractive. But right now, we need to learn and stabilize and keep it all running really well over an extended period. And then we'll worry a little bit more about aesthetics. Sky Shark, it needs some clay. One of the reasons it struggles is the soil's not quite as good as Swabies. We'll do that over time, likely this spring. We need to plant some trees, and that's obviously going to take a while before they provide canopy cover, but that's important. You've seen the tarps out there that we're going to use for large rain events to prevent a lot of damage. And we've got a couple of carpets out there on the landings. We're going to do some more of that. We're kind of getting a feel for things. We're looking at some different options. And then we're going to either buy or hopefully at a discount, but we want some large single pieces of carpet that are kind of dirt-ish colored that are going to look as good as possible. And we'll use those as things harden up. And then when we redo some transitions, we may put the carpet on there for a few weeks to help it harden up and then pull. But you'll see some of that out there. And really the ultimate solution is to grow the number of people sort of riding jumps and gravity zone type things, because those trails are just going to have a culture of you dig to ride. And if you're riding those a lot, you need to be helping maintain them. Our management model, and these are some of the questions that y'all sent me a long time ago via email, but the biking, vis-a-vis hiking, running, in the management model, no, we definitely want more bikers out there, but we need a lot more hikers and runners. And that's why that hiking only trail was built. And we're hopeful to get the parking lot. The parking lot's being donated, the hiking trailhead. So, I can only pester so much about getting it done. But yeah, the sort of $5 a day, $100 a year is not a move away from hikers and runners at all. In fact, we want more hikers and runners out there. We just wanted to get all this in place and get that hiking trailhead and the hiking only trails before we really started advertising. The parking fee generally, most everybody's been very supportive of it. I have gotten a few questions about it. Look, the thing is, like, those trails, basically everything out there except the upper parking lot is solely from private dollars, not even government grants, certainly not taxpayer dollars. I guess grants are taxpayer dollars, but no government dollars have been spent. It's been private dollars and thousands of volunteer hours. It's not a state park. It is now basically a city property and Standing Point Inc. has a management agreement. Go back and watch and read that sort of explanation in the news post. The discounts, senior, military, etc. Yes. But you don't just wave a magic wand and make that happen. We are working hard to get an app and everything in place to just do a simple parking fee. But ultimately we'd like to layer in discounts. You have the question of, okay, if somebody clicks the box for senior or military, we're going to try to validate that. And then that's who's going to do that. Volunteer, eventually, hopefully a paid staff person, but not right now. The priority in that department will be earning your pass via volunteer. And we've just last week identified a couple of volunteer tracking apps so that it'll be really easy for people to track hours without going to a website, on your phone, and easier to manage volunteer days. Had questions about multiple cars. I'll explain in a minute why we're doing license plates, but for now, it's either, you need to be a supporter for 250. If you are bringing 2 cars to the trails on a regular basis, that's just what we're going to ask you to do for right now. And I just feel like with everything that everybody's given locally, asking people who are using the trails that much to sort of really contribute $250 a year to our mission is, I don't feel that bad. sort of building on that, sort of there's some non-negotiable things, which are, we're going to build and maintain the trails to the highest standards. We're going to focus on our mission and local community, etc. But everything else is negotiable. Like those directional trails, we've changed a couple of times. If you notice, like all the directional, this way on Sunday, that way on Monday, all that stuff is separate from the trail names. So, and that's intentional so that we can go pull those signs up if we decide it doesn't make sense. On flying shoes, like I'm not so sure that first corner couldn't be a little more bermed, or maybe that last one. What we've done, that was a green jump on it. So we very much deferred to IMBA and the builders, but that doesn't mean we're not going to look at it and go, well, maybe we'll tweak it here or there. The bottom of WILDCAT and CC Rider, we want to do some more with. So it's not just like we just let the builders build and then we don't ever sort of implement our judgment or experience. We will do that. The parking pass, like I'm never going to make a cent. So the parking pass, and it's designed to fund the mission, and that'll sort of always be the purpose. And so how it functions will be, that's negotiable. The management model is very unique. I don't know of anywhere else. There's some other places like this, like Massanutten and their western, I forget, whatever, the backcountry trails. And then there are all the private bike parks, but this is a public owned piece of property. It's very much for hikers and runners as well as mountain bikers. And it's, it's not private. It's a nonprofit entity. And for riders, $100 a year is nowhere near the market fee. But on the flip side, it's very difficult to tell hikers and runners they need to pay more than $100 a year. So what I tell you is, the fee is really just a mandatory contribution to our nonprofit mission to fund the mission. It's everything we've done, we've designed to be very efficient. Like that automated gate doesn't require manpower. There are no trash cans because somebody's got to empty them, and there may be eventually. But that's initially for the burden on volunteers. And then we also want to be good stewards of the revenue we get from this parking fee and make sure that's making it into the trails and the property and the mission and not getting chewed up in sort of, overheadish, perhaps unnecessary expenditures. We talked about hang tags for the parking pass. All right, we do that. Somebody's got to design them, and then we got to get them drop shipped or somebody's stuffing envelopes. Then they expire, and then we got to make new ones and send them out. And then you got to walk around and like peer in windows to check them. So we're doing the app paperless license plate route, and that's why. I know there's frustration, or there's going to be frustration that you can't move the hang tag from vehicle to vehicle, but we had a reason to not go with that. And like I said before, we're going to have a very simple structure for the parking pass, and then we'll get into discounts. We'll get into other things as we go and as we figure out what makes sense. So really the kind of underlying theme of this is that yes, it's a fee, but to the extent possible, we want the relationship with users to be, we want our mission to be central to that. We want people to feel like they have some ownership and that it's a partnership. That fee should be viewed in the context of sort of not only the value it provides to you, but also as a contribution to a nonprofit that hopefully has a mission you agree with. Few miscellaneous things, and then we'll be done. Trails, a few people are, I know everybody's probably doing a little, but there are a few people that are doing a heroic job of sort of dealing with summer growth. And that's really what we're focused on right now. That and sort of, doing what we need to do on the jump trails, specifically Wildcat and Sky Shark, until sort of September-ish when it cools off, and then we'll sort of pick back up more in that regard. We're getting a little bottom section on to Cycling Gallop because it just kills me and everybody else to ride down the road. So we'll have a little bit more at the end of that. Hiking trailhead, I think I said earlier, I'm hopeful for September or October. It's just really busy right now for people that are paving and doing site work and you know, who's sort of donating the trail. The hiking only trails, I've been on them a little bit. You know, they are getting a little bit overgrown. We need to get, but they just need feet in use. And I think when we get the hiking trailhead over there, we get the parking fee and management in place, then and promote things, we'll get feet. They'll be good. Hopeful to hear about, see something from the website this week. The parking app is pretty much done. We just got to tweak a few boxes. This is the patron, that's the $500 a year. And so we've got payment set up, everything's good to go. The scanning of the license plates working. We got to tweak a few boxes in here. Got to get some more license plates, but this should be good to go very shortly. And we're starting to look into the texting app so that people that are volunteering or giving it that $250 or $500 are getting text with some information about trail status and just what's going on, when things are going to open potentially, etc. And then once we do that, we'll move on to the volunteer app. The field got mowed again. That's private dollars and a generous donor, not any government entity. Ultimately, mowing that field is not the best thing to do ecologically, but it bought us a couple of years to then figure out ultimately what we want to do with that. We've had some skills instruction out there. I know there's interest in that. Here's the thing. So the reason we're charging a parking fee and not a user fee is because the parking fee keeps protection under the Recreational Property Act, which basically makes it very hard to be liable for people getting hurt on the trails. Anytime money changes hands for a use, you lose the recreational property. So like whenever there's anybody at a race or anything like that, you know, the general practice is that individual has to have their own insurance or be bonded, etc. Now, I don't know how that affects Standing Boy Inc. quite yet. I know that it's if we were to get sued for that, the insurance policy we have right now would not cover it. Thus, the insurance requirement for the person, you know, whether it's in a race, event, skills, etc., that's on the list to figure out, but it's just not a priority. But there will be an expectation, you know, if it's someone local, they need, you know, we're looking for partnerships. And I'm volunteering all my time, and I'm not bumping that up the list for anybody that wants to try to make money off the trails. We'll get there when it's important to the overall mission. Or if somebody wants to help and give back, then we could talk about that perhaps sooner, because it is important to eventually have that. All right, that's everything. Hope this wasn't too long. Hope to see everyone on the trails. Drink lots of water. Stay hydrated out there. It's hot. All right. Thanks for watching.